Welcome to my channel, where the scariest stories come to life. Before we dive into today's chilling tale, make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications, so you never miss a story. Now, let's get into the horror. This is a story from when I was 18 years old. I'm 25 now. For reference, my mom and I were regular attendees of our local church. We both attended different midweek groups, though. I went to the one with some of the younger people, and my mom went to the one with the more middle-aged group. My mom's group was about half a mile from our house. We didn't own a car at the time, so she would often walk there by herself for the 7:30 start. This was fine in the summer because it wouldn't get dark until around 9 or even later. When her group ended at around 10, she would call me, and I would start walking or running to meet her so we could walk home together. We would usually meet up not too far from her group, but we always stayed on the phone until we met. On the night in question, everything was going as usual. She called. I slipped my trainers on, locked the house, and began jogging to meet her. I usually ran because it was good training for my rugby. Despite being a big guy, 6'2" and about 290 pounds at the time, I had a very overactive imagination and got spooked easily by the darkness and shadows. To meet my mom, I had to cross our local park and go through an extremely dark patch of trees behind some of the local houses. It was usually just before this area that we'd meet up. Anyway, I'm running, my mom's walking, and we're talking about her evening and who was there when she suddenly says to me in an urgent tone, "Joe, hurry up. I think someone's following me." My heart rate went through the roof, and I started to panic. I broke into a full sprint, still quite a distance from her. I told her to stay as calm as she could and kept her updated on my position. My mom is a very tough woman, strong but also very short. Suddenly, I heard my mom screaming through the phone, and I could also hear it in the distance ahead. "Get the fuck away from me. What do you want? I don't have any money. You can have my phone if you want it." I had only ever heard her swear once before, when I had really pushed her and been extremely rude. This panicked me even more. I began sprinting faster than I ever had in my life. The distance I had to cover usually took me 45 to 60 seconds to run, but I did it in more like 20. It's amazing how your body has this whole other level of physical exertion it can tap into when adrenaline kicks in. By now, I could see two people in the distance. My mom's screams pierced through me. I saw a man had grabbed her by the hair and was dragging her away. She was fighting him desperately. I screamed, "Get the fuck off my mom," and charged at him. He was tall and lean, but he had hardly any weight to him. What happened next was a blur. Only through talking about it with my mom later did we come to a conclusion about what really happened, aside from the guy's injuries, of course. He saw this hulk of a man charging at him and immediately let go of her. She fell to the ground sobbing. He tried to run away, but I caught him easily and brought him down, hard. My mom told me that, in my blind rage, I swept him clean off the ground and smashed his head directly into it. He grunted, and we rolled around as I began to savagely beat him. In rugby, when you tackle someone, you have to be quick onto your feet so you can challenge for the ball and try to win for your team. I had completely blacked out in rage, but apparently, I hopped over the man, headbutted him, and repeatedly slammed his face into the ground. Someone from the houses nearby had heard the screams and called the police. One guy on the street happened to be a policeman and came out to investigate. I remember he had to drag me off the guy. It was only then that I could see the blood and scratch marks on my arms. He had clawed at me, but I hadn't noticed a single moment of it. The police arrived quickly, and we had to be interviewed. It was all a bit blurry. Apparently, I had been beating the man so badly that the off-duty officer initially thought I was the attacker. I suppose anyone would, seeing how badly I had beaten him. The guy was already on police records as a thief. He had mugged a girl in town not long before. When the police interviewed him, he claimed he was just robbing my mom, but I'm not so sure. He's in prison now, thankfully. I had never been so scared in my life. I had always imagined situations like this, where I was the hero saving someone, but I always wondered if I would actually react when the real moment came. Thankfully, I did, and I've never had to again since. It makes me so glad to know that I was being a good son by meeting up with my mom, even though I never really wanted to and never saw the need. You never think this kind of bad stuff will happen to the ones you love, until it finally does. This happened a few months ago at the McDonald's in Copenhagen station. I'm not Danish, just visiting the country for one day. Since I wanted to travel cheaply, I decided to take the cheapest bus available, which just so happened to be the one arriving at 11 p.m. the night before. I figured I could save even more money by not renting a bed somewhere and instead spending the night awake or half asleep at the station. I'd do my business the next day and then sleep long and well on the bus back home. This McDonald's was open 24/7. Pretty early on, I realized the station was far too cold for me to get any decent sleep, so I went inside, bought a cup of coffee, and sat down at an empty table. Plenty of lighting and semi-drunk people around to keep me awake, at least, that's what I thought. I should add that I'm 23 and female. After sitting in this spot for a while, a strange man walked over and placed a cup of soda on my table. In Danish, he said something that I believe meant, "I ate my food already. I didn't drink this, so you can have it if you want." I'm Swedish, and while some Swedes understand Danish perfectly well, I have some difficulty with it. Either way, I didn't pay much attention to the cup after it was put down. I just assumed he was a random drunk trying to flirt with me or something. But then I noticed something unsettling. Just a table away, another man sat watching me very closely. Every time I looked up, we locked eyes. This creeped me out intensely. I hated being watched like that. He sat there for nearly an hour, despite having no food in front of him and not talking to anyone. I started getting really uncomfortable. Then, suddenly, he stood up and walked toward me. I cursed internally, thinking I'd have to defend myself and tell him to leave me alone. But to my surprise, he didn't stop at my table. Instead, he turned toward the man who had left the cup of soda for me. He shoved the cup back into the man's arms and firmly told him to leave. Then he said he didn't want to see him anywhere near that place again. The man who had been watching me then turned to me and explained in English that the soda guy had walked past my table multiple times while I wasn't paying attention, glancing at me and the cup, probably waiting for me to take a drink. He had actually finished his meal quite a while ago but had stayed just to keep an eye on me. He had to leave at that moment, but before he did, he reminded me to be very careful. I hadn't even noticed the soda guy pacing by. I was too fixated on the other man, who just so happened to be the good guy watching over me. Who knows what the man had put in that soda and what would have happened if I had gotten really thirsty and decided to take a sip. The experience I'm about to share scared the absolute shit out of me. This happened almost 8 years ago when I was 20 years old. Even now, I still wonder what the hell was really going on. My best friend and I were both in a bind, desperately looking for a place to move into as soon as possible. We managed to find a basement apartment near downtown. It was a complete and total shithole, but it was a 2-bedroom for only $650, which made it worth it, at least for a while, until we could find a better place. A few days after moving in, though, I started having horrible nightmares. I would wake up completely terrified, but I could never remember what I had been dreaming about. After about a week of this, I started getting this overwhelming feeling whenever I was in my room, like someone was about to burst through my wall and kill me. The landlord had a storage room on the other side of my bedroom wall that he could access, which made me uneasy. Since my room was bigger, and my friend's room was more like a closet, she decided to move in with me. That's when things got even weirder. At night, when I went into the backyard to let the dog out for a quick piss, it always felt like someone on the top floor of the house was watching me. My roommate noticed it too when she came outside with me. We also had a mutual guy friend who we had met through. The three of us were always hanging out, and he stayed over at our place pretty frequently. One night, we were all out, and after a while, he decided to head home on his own. My roommate and I stayed out for a few more hours, finally getting back around 3 a.m. Since we knew we'd be sleeping in, we decided to take the dog out before heading to bed. As we arrived home, I put the dog on her leash so she wouldn't try any monkey business when it was time to come inside. And that's when I saw it. At first, I couldn't quite understand what was happening. But standing by the door, I started seeing what looked like shadows, shapes of people, moving toward us. I don't know what came over me in that moment, but I screamed, "Get in the house now." My roommate, startled, thankfully listened to me. The three of us, me, her, and the dog, bolted inside. As we scrambled down the stairs, I saw something that made my blood run cold. Red eyes peering through the shitty little basement windows. I screamed. I started yelling for our friend who had gone home earlier. Then, my roommate's phone rang. It was our buddy. He didn't know why, but he had suddenly felt like he needed to call. We told him to book his ass over to our place, and when he arrived, he stayed over. He continued to stay over nearly every night for 2 weeks, until we finally got the hell out of that apartment. I don't know why, but my roommate and I always suspected the landlord, or the upstairs tenant, had something to do with all those unsettling things. Make of this what you will, but it scared the ever-living crap out of me. 8 years later, I still get the heebie-jeebies whenever I pass that house on the streetcar. My New Year's resolution in 2012 was to get back in shape. After my first child was born, I had lost my athletic drive, but I always intended to get it back one day. Eventually, I started running 4 days a week with my friend Hannah, who was a great runner and a fantastic motivator. We would run together after work, usually covering between 5 and 10 kilometers, favoring the forest trail. It was the kind of trail that had lighting during the darker months of the year, so you could run there anytime. Once you turned on the lights, you had about 45 minutes to complete the shorter trails and a bit longer for the longer ones before the lights shut off automatically. We had been running there for about 2 months when we started noticing the same man hanging around the parking lot every time we arrived. He was very thin, around 25 to 30 years old, always dressed in sports clothes but never actually running or exercising. He never looked us in the eye either. At first, we speculated that he might be homeless and camping nearby, as he was constantly there. We got used to seeing him sitting somewhere close by, always silent and alone. We even felt somewhat sorry for him. He never seemed to talk to anyone or bother anybody. But something about him made us hesitate to reach out or ask if he was okay. I can't pinpoint exactly what it was, but something just didn't seem right. One evening, Hannah couldn't make it to our run, so I decided to go on my own. I arrived at the parking lot, my car the only one there. I did some stretching to warm up, turned on the lights, and set off on the shorter 5-kilometer trail. I hadn't seen the thin, silent man when I started my run. Perhaps it was finally getting too cold for him to sit there, now that it was autumn, dark, and close to freezing. But he must have been there, somewhere hidden in the shadows. Because as soon as I reached the top of the first steep hill, I heard heavy breathing behind me. I glanced over my shoulder, only to see him. He was running like a man possessed, in regular shoes, not even running shoes. His arms moved in a strange, stiff manner, as if he were made of metal. His hands were straight like arrows, angled unnaturally upward and inward, almost like a sprinter, but much more extreme, like a robot in motion. For the first time ever, he looked me dead in the eyes. And I saw the eyes of a predator. My heart froze. He had never done anything to harm or bother me before, as far as I knew, but in that moment, I knew I was facing a serious, serious threat. I started running even faster, desperate to put distance between us. His heavy breathing grew more strained from the effort, but he kept coming. I ran like my life depended on it, adrenaline surging through me, giving me a new strength. I tore off my necklace and threw it on the ground. If he took me, there had to be some kind of trace left behind. I tried to scream, hoping someone would hear me, but I couldn't afford to slow down. Why was he doing this? What did he want? Who was he? All these thoughts raced through my mind as my lungs burned. Then I thought of my 15-month-old daughter. And I ran so hard I could taste blood in my mouth. He was still behind me, maybe 100 meters back now, but I knew that if I tripped, ran out of energy, or fumbled with my car keys once I reached the lot, I was completely screwed. Then I saw my chance. At a sharp turn in the trail, I veered off, plunging straight into the dark woods. I ran a short distance before dropping flat onto my stomach, pressing myself into the foliage. My hand frantically searched for a rock, anything to defend myself if he found me. And then I realized I was wearing bright running clothes with neon colors and reflective strips. I had never felt so visible in the dark. I heard him reach the turn. And then, thank God, he kept running. I stayed completely still, moving only as silently as possible, inching further into the darkness. But then, my heart stopped. Rapid footsteps. Coming back. He must have realized I had gone off trail. He stopped. And so did I. I could feel him listening for any sound. I held my breath. And I begged to God I didn't even believe in to make him leave. After what felt like an eternity of silence, I heard him mutter something in a language I didn't understand. Then, finally, he walked off. I still didn't move. I feared he would be waiting for me by my car. I realized I couldn't risk going back there alone. I needed to reach the main road and find help. I started making my way deeper into the woods, knowing that if I kept going, I'd eventually reach the last part of the long trail near the road. Then, suddenly, the lights on the trail shut off. At first, I felt relief. The dark was my protection. But then, after only a few moments, the lights switched back on. It could mean another runner had started their run. Or, it could mean he was searching for me. Or maybe getting ready to prey on someone else. I didn't wait to find out. I kept moving, pushing through the thick woods. I fell multiple times, my clothes soaking in the damp vegetation. I was freezing. After what felt like a lifetime, I finally saw the 10-kilometer trail ahead. I had to be close to the main road. Then, I heard traffic. I stumbled toward the sound, desperate. When I finally reached the road, I must have looked like I had been in a terrible accident. Blood covered my arms from small cuts. My clothes were filthy. My face, I can only imagine, looked petrified. My bright running shirt caught the attention of a passing car. I waved frantically, shouting desperately. The driver, a man in his 40s with 2 kids in the back seat, pulled over. It took him 10 minutes to make sense of my sobbing, panicked words. He asked if I wanted him to take me back to the parking lot. I told him no. Please, just take me home. At home, my husband insisted on going back for the car and calling the police. But for what? No crime had technically been committed. I just knew he had been out to get me. My husband went anyway. The driver's side window was smashed in. My phone was gone. And the person who took it had also taken a photo of my daughter, the one I kept hanging from the rearview mirror. I don't know what he was trying to do or why he chased me the way he did. But I'll never forget the look in his eyes. There was no doubt he had bad intentions for me that night. Welcome to my channel, where the scariest stories come to life. Before we dive into today's chilling tale, make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications, so you never miss a story. Now, let's get into the horror.